When you want to eat, just Momo it. Tired of the long queues in the supermarket? Pay with Momo. When you really want that beautiful new blouse, just Momo it. When you want to get a trim and get fresh to impress you know who, just Momo it. When you need to pay your utility bills and domestic staff, Shani Momo. When you want to send love to the family back home, send some Momo. Join the millions of MTN Momo users all over Ghana and live life the brighter way. So just Momo it. MTN.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday News. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Kekeli Radio in Ho, Ganga FM in Jirapa, Radio Wa in Wa, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi. You can go digital. It's on Spotify, Facebook and myjoyonline.com app. This afternoon, stop politicizing the civil service. The cry of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana as it accuses government of bloating Ghana's wage bill with jobs for party members.
These interferences lead to a loss of institutional memory, which is very important for the development and progress of the services and policy management.
Imani Ghana warns an estimated 1.4 million people with government securities will be badly exposed if government goes ahead with the proposed debt restructuring.
What is going to happen to the banking sector? I'm afraid we may go into the same crisis in the banking crisis. This one will be a bigger blow than the first one.
We hear from the Association of Bankers, which says it has confidence in the finance minister as he leads the country's negotiations with the IMF.
The finance minister was very explicit, and as a community of banks, we have every confidence in what he has said.
And Bank of Ghana begins tracking of persons who are refusing to repay their mobile money loans.
Everything about you is there. Your name, your date of birth, your gender, your telephone number, where you reside, where you work, all those usual information that we know.
Judges call on Finance Ministry to fast-track the payment of the allowances which are in several months of arrears as they round up the annual Magistrates and Judges Conference in Accra.
Fuel allowance for the first quarter was released only last week to the Judicial Service. Last week. First quarter is January to March. So I cannot even begin to talk about second and third quarter. As for fourth quarter, don't start thinking about it.
And then sports.
There will be no more Ghana Premier League games for at least 2 weeks after a GFA suspension. Details later.
Now, Ghana Tourism Authority also says it has taken steps to resolve issues arising from usage of footage from musician Kirani Ayat for a promotional video.
I requested for the lawyer's number, and I spoke to the lawyer, and I said, look, please, we have an arrangement with an agency who gave us this stuff. Be it as it may, how much are you looking for so that we sort this matter out? It wasn't an admission of guilt. I'm the kind of cheater little.
Well, you know, US rapper Coolio will bring you his greatest hits. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, the Civil and Local Government Service Association of Ghana, CLOCSAG, is urging government to back off interfering with the civil service through the employment of unqualified party members. Executive Secretary of CLOCSAG, Isaac Bampuado, says this has rendered members of his association redundant, even though they are more competent than these party members. He's been speaking at the 5th Nathan Anankwao lectures.
Before a minister can have a personal assistant, it must be approved by the chief of staff. There's regulation on that. And I think the law allows for only 2. But go to Ministry of Finance now. We have over 100 personal assistants, and what work are they doing? So you ask yourself, these over 100 personal assistants are Ministry of Finance. So what work would the civil servants be doing? Is it not creating redundancy for them? Meanwhile, they are earning salaries far above what, and they don't know anything too.
And Joseph Akable was at that conference or that lecture, just joining us in the studio with more from this particular concern raised by Clocksack. Joseph, was any specific ministry mentioned by Clocksack as an example?
They made reference to the Ministry of Finance. The claim is that there are more than 100 political assistants at that particular ministry, including a personal assistant who serves as an internal auditor. They say that is a position that they cannot understand why it should be occupied by someone from a political party.
Succession plans for the service are truncated by political appointments and institutional arrangements which do not go in tandem with the details of the regulatory framework. Ultimately, these interferences lead to a loss of institutional memory, which is very important for the development and progress of the services and policy management. Political interference has also led to the incident of Golo Boys, where cohorts of politicians interfere with services of established government institutions and play roles as middlemen to provide services for the public, disregarding the laid down procedures. Way forward. We are where we are because we have neglected the development of the civil and local government services for political expediencies. And no government can achieve its objective without a well-motivated, properly structured, and well-resourced administrative machinery. The way to go with any fledgling democracy is to relook at the crucial role of the services to ensure national development and also take appropriate steps to ensure the following: insulate the services from direct political interference and machinations. Appointments and promotions and career management should remain neutral and be based solely on merit. That's based on experience instead of emphasizing on qualification. There should be continual professional development of all staff. Responsibility of the employer for professional development. Conditions of service must be enhanced and maintained at a level that should exact the requisite performance standards. Review the laws of the Civil and Local Government Services Act, especially the composition of the councils. Politicians must desist and resist the temptation of creating avenues of employment for their teaming supporters to avoid unnecessary duplications of efforts and wanton dissipation of scarce government resources. It is expected that with the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution, 30 years from now, the Public Services Commission would have safeguarded the civil service from political influences.
That's Isaac Bampuado, Executive Secretary of Clocksack. So we know about the Ministry of Finance, but I'm sure you've been finding out more from them. Any other ministries?
They actually say it cuts across all other ministries, and they make reference to even the appointment of chief directors, and they say that the current process is open to allow politicians who are in power to determine who occupies that particular position. And they believe that because of that, it creates a situation where implementation of government policies is being done not by civil servants, by other individuals who do not have institutional memory and lack the capacity to be able to execute such projects in a manner that the Clocksack members are more competent to do.
Thank you very much. That's Joseph Akable. There's more of that on myjoyonline.com. We focus on the economy now, and banking consultant Dr. Richmond Ituahene is urging the country to brace for tougher times ahead as government explores ways to restructure domestic debt as part of conditions to meet an IMF bailout. He says the development, if not well handled, could be worse than the banking sector crisis that cost the nation over 25 billion cedis. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta at a news conference yesterday gave assurance government will protect savings and the local banks in its debt sustainability approach.
As stated in our press release dated 26 September 2022, on the commencement of the IMF negotiations, having a sustainable debt path is a prerequisite for the IMF program. Therefore, the IMF, World Bank, and the Ghana team are currently undertaking a debt sustainability analysis to inform the program negotiations. Ghana needs a viable domestic financial system to support its development program, especially in these 3 years with limited access to international capital markets. Therefore, everything must and will be done to protect our financial sector, and room for a win-win conversation through extensive stakeholder engagement with both our domestic and external investors. This is a government that protected the savings of 4.6 million Ghanaian depositors with the reform of the banking and financial sector. Even in our early days, we owe it to the economy and Ghanaians to keep protecting it.
Well, we'll hear from banking consultant shortly. Also hear from the chief executive of the Association of Bankers. But first, Imani Ghana, that's a policy think tank. They've come up with some preliminary findings from an analysis of potential sovereign debt restructuring in Ghana. They are saying that over 1.4 million people with government securities could be badly exposed by the debt structuring move. And my colleague Elton Brobe has been looking at these findings and joins me in studio. So let's talk about what exactly Imani is proposing.
So first, according to them, debt service to revenue is currently estimated at 60%. This is because revenue projection for 2022 is currently 80 billion Ghana cedis, whilst interest payment alone, that is without accounting for amortization, is 41.36 billion. This 60%, according to Imani, is well in excess of the projected 32% and massively in breach of the 18% threshold in the IMF debt sustainability framework. Debt service to export is about 32%, which is more than double the projected 14.8% of DSA interest. Ghana's debt, according to Imani, is technically unsustainable based on the IMF standard yardstick. However, the IMF has the discretion to look at country-specific factors such as external debt servicing, which is less than 10% of export revenue. Now, when it comes to people who are badly exposed, according to Imani, it is estimated that 1.4 million people are directly exposed to government securities, judging by the number of depository accounts in the country. And according to them, this number could be described as a political force. Okay. To summarize, the greater danger to a successful domestic debt restructuring on the technical front is litigation or people going to court to challenge the government action. And they see government inability to build political consensus as the biggest challenge ahead of constraining any attempt to resort to using parliament to speed up the process of renegotiating the terms of a domestic debt. And they do believe that government promise of an industry-led process is credible, since apart from the banks who hold only 1/3 of the debt, such a model would not be viable for the rest of the fragmented private sector. And it goes on to give recommendations, which includes the federal government must work directly with the opposition NDC in parliament to enact a law so as when government take the action to restructure the debt, it will not open itself to litigation.
Okay, well, that's an issue we'll explore further subsequently. But Dr. Richmond Etuahini, a banking consultant, tells my colleague Daryl Kwao the banking sector is on a time bomb.
There is what we call a haircut. The haircut is very simple. You either have to go with a certain percentage of your debt investment and the interest, and discount it maybe 10%. So if you have 100 cedis, you'll be getting 90 cedis. And then that 90 cedis, the 10 cedis that is left, go straight to hit your capital. It's going to hit the bank capital. And if it hits the bank capital, we're going to have a challenge, because most of the banks have huge investment in government bills. And all the banks, those who have serious investment in the treasury bills and the government bills, they're going to have a challenge, because according to IFRS, the 9 and the 16, when asset is impaired, that asset, what is impaired, must go straight into your capital to reduce your capital adequacy. That is why you keep on hearing about the World Bank talking about what is going to happen to the banking sector. I'm afraid we may go into the same crisis in the banking crisis.
And that's exactly the concern. The banking sector is just recovering from a crisis that hit it. This could be a further blow.
Daniel, it's going to be a big blow. This one will be a bigger blow than the first one. Because you see, capital, they recently capitalized the banks.
But Chief Executive of the Association of Bankers, John Ewa, has confidence in the Finance Minister to protect the sector.
The Finance Minister was very explicit, and as a community of banks, we have every confidence in what he has said, that we've come that far. You recall that just not too long ago, we were significantly in crisis in the financial system. And the government, working with the Bank of Ghana, did everything to bring the system back on track. And the minister has said it emphatically that whatever process that this discussion, the undertaking goes through, there's one thing that is clear, that it will come out with a stronger, better, more resilient financial system, and nothing, absolutely nothing will be done to derail the progress that we've made thus far.
Well, ahead of the enhanced engagement with Parliament, the ranking member on Finance Committee, Dr. Atwefosing, is urging government to undertake cuts in expenditure.
Some of government flagship programs have been wasteful and useless, some of them, and there is a need for us to revisit them. An example is planting for food and jobs. We are spending so much money, yet we are not seeing the impact. Can't we go back to the table and review it? There's the need for us to review it. We've talked about one district, one factory, where we give huge tax exemptions to some of these companies. Why can't we go back and review it to see whether it's working well or not? And some of them, we are giving them subsidies on.
Well, governments may be facing challenges turning the economy around, but if you're refusing to pay back quick loans secured from your mobile money service provider, think again, because beginning today, the Bank of Ghana is undertaking a digital trace to track you down. Here's the head of the Financial Stability Unit of the Bank of Ghana, Augustine Amwako-Donko.
For those who are thinking like this, they are not going to achieve their aim because currently in Ghana, there's a system that is called credit reporting. Okay. Now, under this credit reporting system, there are some institutions that Bank of Ghana have licensed that are called credit bureaus. The work that the credit bureaus do is that they receive or they gather data on borrowers from lenders. So in our case, let's say the financial institutions. So per the law governing credit reporting in Ghana, every financial institution which gives loans, they are supposed to report on those loans to the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus will take this information and then they will generate what we call credit report for all these borrowers. It's the personal, I call it the personal information. Everything about you is there. Your name, your date of birth, your gender, your telephone number, where you reside, where you work, all those usual information that we know IT authority to take from us.
That's the head of Financial Stability Unit of the Bank of Ghana, Augustine Amwako-Donko. Now, I know that many of you had to sleep in the dark because you were unable to purchase a prepaid electricity yesterday, and it's been on since Monday. Some of you have told us. We know that the ECG communicated that their PNS and eCash metering system was down and they were experiencing some technical challenges which they are working on. The PURC in the last few minutes has issued a statement on this particular development. Kwekwa Sante joins me in studio with more on this. What are they saying?
So, Emefa, the Executive Secretary, Dr. Ishmael Aka, says the PURC has noticed with concerns the challenges experienced in vending by customers of eCash and PNS metering systems of ECG. The Commission is closely monitoring the situation and is in full discussion with the service provider to address the issue. The Commission wishes to assure all affected customers of its commitment to ensuring the delivery of a safe and reliable utility service provision, and will get this issue resolved very quickly. And that's the PURC.
We hit the labour front. We know that labour unions and the private public universities yesterday gave government a 1-week ultimatum about their conditions of service. Well, the judges are also lamenting the non-payment of the allowance on time, revealing they have several months of the allowances in arrears. According to President of the Association of Magistrates and Judges, Justice Henry Kofi, who spoke at the annual conference in Accra, said these allowances forms an important part of their conditions of service and called on government to honour these obligations.
At every single conference, the issue of the payment of allowances seems to be raised, and I cannot escape that topic as well, because as I speak, I am told that the fuel allowance for the first quarter was released only last week to the judicial service. Last week. First quarter is January to March. So I cannot even begin to talk about second and third quarter. As for fourth quarter, don't start thinking about it. I think that this is very, very necessary, and the situation where we always have to fight. You will recall, my lords, that even this year, some previous allowances outstanding from last year were paid. And that was because of the instrumentality of the Chief Justice. We had to be virtually dragging the Chief Justice before eventually the ministry released funds for the payment of those allowances. I think that situation is not acceptable.
He also raised concerns about some courthouses which are in a deplorable state across the country and called on government to fix it.
The association has taken note of the recent infrastructural development of the very deplorable situation of the Cape Coast Court Complex. The association has decided that we would drum home this point about the deplorable condition of the Cape Coast Complex. I happened to have gone there in June. I was passing through. Of course, I've been there several times, and I know that it's in a very deplorable condition, but I never knew that it was to this degree. I don't want to bore you with what I saw. You may not like it, but it was very, very unacceptable. And I would want to say that the Cape Coast Court is not fit for the purpose for which it was built.
That's the president of the Association of Magistrates and Judges, Justice Henry Kofi. Well, the Chief Justice has also charged judges to play a role in safeguarding the cyber rights of citizens and treat all who come before them equal under the law.
I urge you, colleague judges and magistrates, to be particularly abreast of emerging issues surrounding cybersecurity and be alert to protect victims of cyberbullying and other cyber crimes, particularly children and the vulnerable in the society. There are indeed exciting times ahead, and we all must take advantage of the innovations to give our compatriots nothing but the best in justice delivery. We should also be mindful of our judicial oath to ensure absolute fidelity to the rule of law and to work without fear, favor, affection, or ill will, and treat all who come before us equally.
Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah there taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News, live on Joy 99.7 FM. We are in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. And around the world, we are on myjoyonline.com. We are on Facebook and Spotify. They've been asked to stop politicizing the civil service. That's the cry of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, as it accuses government of bloating Ghana's wage bill with jobs for party members. When we return, we have sports, and then the Ghana Tourism Authority says it has taken steps to resolve issues arising from usage of footage from musician Kira Mayat for a promotional video.
I requested for the lawyer's number, and I spoke to the lawyer, and I said, look, please, we have an arrangement with an agency who gave us this stuff. Be it as it may, how much are you looking for so that we sort this matter out? It wasn't an admission of guilt.
And also tributes begin to pour in. We've been hearing from Snoop Dogg, MC Hammer, amongst others, for US rapper Coolio. Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do sports.
Yes, Emefa. Now, Ashanti Gold have successfully filed an injunction to halt the 2022-2023 Ghana Premier League, which means there will be no action for at least 2 weeks. This follows the decision by the Ghana Football Association to demote Ashanti Gold and Entire Lights to the Division 2 League at the end of last season. The two clubs were relegated to the third tier after the disciplinary committee found them guilty of match manipulation on week 34 in the 2021-2022 campaign. Ashanti Gold's case will be heard on the 14th of October. Meanwhile, the GFA has promised to seek redress to ensure a swift resumption.
Do you know MC Hammer?
I know Tupac, I don't know MC Hammer.
Okay. Children of today. Well, let's talk about the Ghana Tourism Authority, and they say they've taken steps to resolve issues arising from usage of footage from musician Kirani Ayat for a promotional video. According to Kirani Ayat, visuals from the song Guda was used by government without consent in a tourism video narrated by President Akufo-Addo. According to Kirani, he reached out to the Tourism Ministry between 2018 and 2019 to use this video to push tourism in the north, but got no reply and is unhappy that the government is now using it without his consent. He's been speaking on our sister station Hits FM.
When that video was ready, I reached out to the ministry to make sure we do something about it. It fell on deaf ears. So for it now being used, yes, I'm happy because it's a good initiative, but also the right thing wasn't done. So that also needs to be corrected. That's all I'm saying. That's why it's not even a beef or anything. People are misconstruing it. It's nothing like that. It's just that since we are in a country with laws, then these laws needs to be applied and needs to be followed.
Well, there was a back and forth between himself and the tourism ministry and some government officials. Well, today we are told there's a turnaround from the Ghana Tourism Authority. Kwekwa Sante, what exactly is the development now?
So there was an organization called SAMSAL who released a statement saying that the claim by the Ghana Tourism Authority that they had engaged a certain bespoke agency for an authorization to use that video is false, because they had entered into a contract with GTA and GTA has failed to honor its part of that obligation, and so GTA cannot use this video, and that they had specifically giving some specific videos to GTA to use and did not include that Kirani Ayat video.
Okay, so the Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Akwesi Ajiman, says steps are now being taken to resolve the matter. He's been speaking on our sister station, Hits FM. He explained that he's also spoken to the lawyer of the artiste.
So I requested for the lawyer's number, and I spoke to the lawyer, and I said, look, please, this is the issue at stake. We have an arrangement with an agency who gave us this stuff. Be it as it may, he says, no, it's intellectual property, whatever. He says, okay, so you need to be compensated. I said, that's fine. How much are you looking for? So that we sort this matter out. It wasn't an admission of guilt. Now they are making certain demands that is going beyond what my approval limit with or whatever. So I told them that, look, we cannot deal with this in this way. But I want you to tell your artist to pull down that tweet. Because, one, it is disrespectful to the number one man of the land. There may be challenges. We can criticize him. He's human. But when we are trying to run down the presidency of our land, it is not something that I think bodes well for our industry.
That's the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority. Meanwhile, intellectual property lawyer Sarah Anku says those who generated the video and those who commissioned them to do so are both liable.
If the use of the work does not fall within those permitted uses, then please, you need to seek the consent of the owner of the work. If you commissioned a work and they commissioned it through this agency, we expect that the agency should have done its work by seeking a license from the owner of the work before passing it on to those who commissioned them. And the law is stated, it's clear. You are not allowed to do that in law.
Let's head to the Ashanti region now, where a man believed to be in his 30s has been found dead after allegedly drowning in the Subin River at the Awoma Subebre in the Ashanti region. The body was found Thursday morning after a night hunt to retrieve the body of the deceased. Emmanuel Bright Kweku was at the scene and now reports.
According to eyewitnesses, the deceased, identified as Kojo Mensah, attempted to cross the river which had overflown its banks to his home. They say an occupant of a nearby house cautioned him against using the path, but he resisted and slept into the river. The deceased is alleged to have been tipsy while attempting to cross the river. Kwame Daniel is the brother-in-law of the deceased.
I'm from there around 3 to 4. But one old man became saying, so now you're into one sign.
I had a call around 3 p.m. yesterday that he wanted to cross the river, but an old man who was living by told him not to cross the river. But unfortunately, he did not listen and slipped into the river. His in-law saw him and called for help. With the help of some friends, we tried searching the river all night for him, but we could not find him. It was this morning that we tried again and found the body in the river. He's unemployed.
Back here, as we mark a World Heart Day, Ghana is still recording an increase in heart-related diseases, according to a report authored by two NGOs, World Heart Federation and the Stroke Association Support Network. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, joins me in studio with more on this. Run us through the data of cases being reported compared to last year.
Yeah, Emefa, according to data available to Joy News, 30,000 cases of cardiac diseases, 426,000 hypertension, and almost 17,000 cases of stroke have been reported between January and August this year alone. According to the NGOs, there's an immediate need to take urgent action on climate and health inequality to save people from cardiovascular diseases, which they say is the world's known biggest killer.
Protect your heart, Fred. Now, let's talk about Coolio.
I ain't trying to
who Coolio is. Okay, I'm sure many of you know him, and you know by now that he's dead. He died at the age of 59, and tributes are pouring in for him. Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, MC Hammer are among the big names in the rap industry back in the days, paying tribute to Coolio following the news of his death. So the US rapper, known for his 1995 hit song Gangsta's Paradise, Snoop Dogg referenced the world-famous track in his own tribute writing, Gangsta's Paradise, R.I.P. Former NWA star Ice Cube said he had witnessed Coolio's grind to the top of the industry in his own tributes. This is sad news, the rapper and actor wrote on Twitter, and the tributes continue to pour in. If you have any of the Gen Zs around you, please educate them on who Coolio is. And that's how we wrap up on the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. UTAG, 3 other university labor unions threatening to go on strike on October 5. And also, we shall also be blessed with Ghana Miracle. Finance Minister speaks on economy recovery. That and more.